one thing we need to figure out before we move any farther is if Darkseid's mom's name is Martha, because that could change everything.
Welcome to the
Is
This
Entertainment Podcast. Episode 23.
We get to talk about the Snyderverse with the Snyder Cut.
The Snyder Cut.
And the Josstice League.
Zack Snyder's Justice League. In the Josstice League. We've got Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Oh, that really hurts my throat.
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard to keep up. I gave up before I even started.
Sundays. No, I should have done a vocal warm up before this.
No, but seriously though, we'll keep it a little more low key for you guys. We don't want to be too intense. We don't want to offend anyone.
It's a chill day. We're just here to analyze the same movie, two different directors, and a mishmash of scenes.
This is what happens when you need the corporations to make these movies. But when you have the bean counters, I feel like that's a derogatory term at this point. Bean counter. I'm going to get canceled for saying bean counter.
You know what? There's this whole conundrum. This whole Justice League conundrum is a product of too many cooks, in my opinion. Too many cooks in the kitchen.
You know what's weird? I always thought the writer on a movie was always one person. And for whatever reason, I think there were two writers credited on this film. I thought, as far as the writers...
Yeah. Zack Snyder works with...
But as far as
Chris
the
Terrio
rules...
is his guy.
Yeah, but as far as the rules for Writers Guild, it can only be one writer on a movie. And I'm pretty sure I saw two writers in the credits. And maybe that has something to do with... Okay, yeah, then I'm an idiot. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why I thought that.
No, and what's interesting is there's rules as far as if you contribute X amount of dialogue, then... But a lot of it gets negotiated by agents and stuff. So in Justice League, Joss Whedon didn't get any credit other than a story credit.
Oh, he didn't get any credit?
He didn't write the initial script.
Yeah.
He didn't get credit as director. He didn't get credit as editor.
He should have.
He was basically the showrunner.
He should have got credit for bad dad jokes and directing a monster of a film. It's like a Frankenstein.
Right, yeah, but at the same time, he was also... I think... For as much, don't get me wrong, he deserves a lot of scorn and derision, but he was also handed a crap situation. He stepped into a bad situation and did not make it better. And I'm not saying that what Zack Snyder filmed was the bad situation. I'm saying that the studio heads imposing a restriction like this movie has to only be 2 hours. 2 hours or under. That's an unrealistic expectation, especially considering everything that Zack Snyder already shot. You just can't do that. Marvel's Avengers is 2 hours and 24 minutes. You can't go from Batman versus Superman to a 2 hour Justice League movie. It took 5 movies to set up the Avengers.
I can't believe I'm saying this. In the studio's defense, there was a time when movies were sold out, and if your movie is a certain length, it can only be shown so many times during the day. And so, assuming this is going to be the mega event that it is, Avengers level event, if you get it down to 2 hours, then you can show it X number of times, and therefore you'll make more money. And so I think that's where they were coming from, but they forgot that they were trying to tell a story that they had with characters that they haven't set up yet, and that becomes problematic.
It's a lot easier to sell out a good movie,
right,
than a terrible one.
Yeah, I think my basic understanding of the Snyder Cut and what I liked about it is that it had a story that was fully developed. All of the characters that we didn't know about before Justice League had their backstory introduced and fleshed out, and they had motivations for doing things for most of it. I would say what's funny is the scene that was probably the coolest to watch is the least needed scene. The one with Wonder Woman in a bank or whatever. That was completely unnecessary. We got a little bit of Wonder Woman in BVS, and so we kind of knew what was up with her. So we didn't actually need her extra backstory scene. That could have been cut. Although it was the visually one of the coolest scenes.
Definitely. I think what that scene establishes, and don't get me wrong, you don't need much to establish this. What that scene establishes is that in the absence of Superman, she's stepping into the light more. And she's trying to pick up the slack for Superman after he has shown the way of, hey, you can be out and helping people.
See, it's like I said.
I think that's what that was meant to do.
Every scene, whether it's too long or not, had a purpose. So you're right. I didn't see the purpose there, but there was one. So there you go. Thank you for coming to my defense. Because, because
of course,
because it seems to me like I really enjoyed this movie more than I thought I was going to. And you maybe, I don't know, didn't? Am I putting words in your mouth?
No, I honestly, I think it met my expectations. My expectations weren't super high, except for it did a couple of things that irked me. Like he made some choices that I wouldn't have made. But I think ultimately this movie working hinges on its 4-hour runtime to me. I think with some crisper editing, it could get down to 3:30. Yeah. And then and that would take out some of the like musical interludes and
some slow motion stuff, maybe.
And some slow motion stuff, just some things that like could have kept the pace going a little bit more. But if you have the HBO Max and they're letting you do whatever you want, then make it a 4-hour movie. But if it takes that long to pay off all of the scenes and to set up all of the things that you've got in the movie, and you still don't, I don't want to say get to the cool part, but there's so much foreshadowing of this like nightmare apocalypse scenario in Batman versus Superman. And then in this movie, they just do more foreshadowing of that. So it's just, we're constantly foreshadowing to this like cooler movie that hasn't happened yet. And I'd rather just have a cool movie in the one that we're watching. And we don't get Superman back until chapter 6 of 8?
Yeah, it's 2 hours in.
Chapter 5. Yeah, it's a long ways in.
I think it could have been two
we could have
movies.
just gotten to getting Superman in earlier.
Here's what happened. Zack Snyder wanted wanted 7 people. He wanted Green Lantern in. If you add Green Lantern in, now you have even more story. And in that case, I think you have 2 full movies. And you could have done a whole movie leading up to the idea of bringing back Superman. And then you could have done a whole movie from Superman coming back to the end. And I don't mind them pushing back the nightmare stuff to the next movie. I just wish we had already gotten this movie 4 years ago, or 2 movies. Like we could have got the first leading up to Superman right before he comes back, or right after he comes.
A whole movie about just bringing Superman back, and then Superman just like showing up at the very end. That's almost what we got. We just get a little extra bit of him in this. I would rather just in the first third of the movie be like, oh, this guy's got 2 of the 3 mother boxes. We've got this mother box. Let's get Superman back. If that's Wonder Woman, Flash's, and Batman's main motivation for the first third of the movie, and then Cyborg and Aquaman make their way onto the team.
Yeah, I think you would have to. I think you would have to cut them. You would have to cut Aquaman and Cyborg out of this film to get it to go faster, because you're introducing too many characters.
So no, what I'm saying is, I'm saying you can flip the trajectory there to where by the end of the movie is when you get Aquaman, or in the like last third,
like
you
he
get
shows up.
Come in around.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like there's a way that you can work it to where he comes in at the end, but then that gives you time to explore who they are and what they're doing. So you've got your main story, your A plot of trying to bring Superman back, and then you've got your B and C plot of Cyborg and Aquaman making their way onto the team, and then they converge, and then they all deal with Steppenwolf for half of the movie, or for the next third, and then we get into some real dark side stuff for that last third of the movie.
It's a lot.
I don't know.
It's a lot. I mean, because
it's a lot.
Because they would have did it. I think if they could fit it in, they would have. Like, they had to cut Cyborg out, and he's integral to figuring out the mother boxes. And they cut 90% out in the Josstice League.
Look, Joss Whedon did Ray Fisher dirty. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Aside from all of the like interpersonal stuff that Ray Fisher's mad about, if I'm Ray Fisher and I recorded Zack Snyder's movie, And I've got all these scenes where dealing with really his origin story and him coming into his own as Cyborg, as opposed to like dealing with who he is. If I made that movie where I'm basically the heart, like the emotional heart of the entire story, and then Joss Whedon comes in and he's like, yeah, you're character 6 of 6, I would be furious, because in this movie he is super integral to the plot, and in Josstice League he is not.
I'm juggling. I don't know why I feel the need to just like, here's what's happening.
Have every drink that you have in your hands.
Here's what's happened. I've been intermittent fasting, but I've been doing it for a really long amount of time. Like yesterday I went, I don't know, 20 hours without eating. And I'm trying to do it again, and I'm starving. I'm freaking starving. So I'm trying to do coffee, black coffee, and I got tea, and I got water. And so I'm just like, maybe if I just keep drinking, I'll feel full.
Pick up smoking. Maybe pick up smoking. That'll be a good appetite suppressant.
There are actual like benefits to nicotine. Like it's good for your brain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's studies that show that it like reduces Alzheimer's and stuff like that. Like,
interesting.
It's just the smoke and the tar and the carbon monoxide, all that. Yeah. But if you get just just pure nicotine,
and smelling it in your clothes. Ugh.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to go back to that scene that you're talking about with Wonder Woman, because we need to talk about the fact that she straight up murders that guy.
Right. Where was that?
Yeah. 2 guys, really. She like hits that one dude or throws him up against the wall, and there is a blood splatter where his head hit. And that is, just like literally, boom, it happens. I turn to my wife. I'm like, she just killed that guy. Whoa. He goes head first into that wall, and then there is a gigantic blood splatter on that wall and an indentation where his head went in. Like, Wonder Woman straight up murdered that dude. We're definitely in the murderverse. We are in the murderverse. And whap! Oh, that guy. He's not gonna wake up from that one.
You never know, man. He could be fine.
Yeah, maybe, but chances are he's not walking again. That's for sure.
So we're in the murderverse. So does this bother you?
We're definitely in the murderverse. Not really. I saw on the internet some references to where Wonder Woman was like, "No, I think in context with having a conversation with with Superman was like, yeah, there's a reason you don't see my enemies come back again and again. It's because I killed them the first time." I was like, dang, if that's canon, go for it. And then, she straight up explodes the other guy. You just see his hat falling off the building. After she gets rid of the bomb. And then, the main villain guy, she hits him with the bracelets. That's what killed Ares. So he's not surviving that. She was a little supercharged with the lightning when she killed Ares, but still. And this is all in front of a group of school children. She's, hey, I just murdered 2 guys. Look at the indentation in the wall. While this dude's bringing his gun up. Yep, you're about to get murdered, bruh. But then in the Josstice League, you see all the guys tied up with the lasso, and she's talking to the cops. So Joss definitely was like, yeah, we're going to make this a little less murdery.
A little more PG. Yeah, for sure. I think that's not a... So, like, the murderiness of these characters, I think it sits okay with me.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying
it feels...
You just know that it's...
It feels definitely more adult.
It feels Zack Snyder.
Yeah, It's definitely... And
the music is also much more aggressive in this movie than in the other one.
Yeah.
Like, the music is way more like...
It's the same guy. I follow Junkie XL, and they asked him to recompose certain parts of the film for this version. Yeah. But he's a very capable composer, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
We're just waiting.
And they really go all in on that violin.
There is a lot of the slow motion, and honestly, it didn't take me out of the film when I was watching it, but like going back and watching it again.
No, that's like par for the course. I mean, Man of Steel plays around a lot with slow motion, fast motion, like really showing how quickly these superhuman people can move. And she just...
Do we see him fly out, or just the hat?
No. Wow. But I'm pretty sure we can all guess.
Oh, he's fine. He landed on a random mattress somewhere.
And his hat fell off. She did that to knock his hat off, which surprised him so she could apprehend him and then...
Put him in the lasso of truth.
Incapacitate him, bring him to the police
find
later.
Out who's behind all this. Yeah.
That's what that hat symbolizes.
Yeah, no, it's really hardcore. You're right. Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a stylistic choice that he made versus one that Joss changed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It did seem the Josstice League was very kid friendly, I would think. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon vibe in some spots.
Yeah, it definitely had some elements of that. And that's ultimately like why that movie feels so disjointed, because you have scenes that were meant to be in this movie, and then you have a scene Flash being like saving those kids from by pushing the truck away and being like Dostoevsky.
Yeah. Forget the big bad guy that's
tonally two different movies.
Yeah, forget the bad guy that's destroying the world. I'm going to go save some civilians that are in a truck or whatever.
Well, everybody's got their part to play. Yeah.
Like Superman's murdering.
Speaking of murdering, at the very end, Steppenwolf. Whew. Josstice League.
Yeah.
There's that whole subplot of the parademons smelling fear, and then they break his axe, and then he's too scared, and then the parademons take him down. This one, he just straight gets decapitated.
Yeah, by Wonder Woman herself.
Amazing.
She's not holding back. Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, okay, so like in comparison to Marvel, because Marvel, I think, is more uplifting for several reasons, but one of them is that most of the heroes start out as regular people and then become elevated. And so we can identify with them in a way or relate to them. And then the characters in DC are essentially gods. Like they're either born with it or of the lineage of a god or something like, so it's a little bit harder to identify with them, except for maybe Batman, which is why I think he's probably the most popular character, because we probably can't identify with being a super billionaire or whatever, but
everybody aspires to be that kind of rich,
Yeah. So it's like a human that we can relate to on some level, experiencing some sort of grief or something. So I think that's why Batman gets elevated, because he is playing in the playground of the gods in human form. Yeah. Do we want to talk about the 4x3?
Yeah, let's talk about the 4x3. I expected to hate it at the beginning, and I was so confused as to why, because I thought 4x3 meant that they were cutting out the ends. I thought this, like, the widescreen was your normal film aspect ratio, and that all they were doing was just cutting out, because I bought the full screen version of Lord of the Rings on DVD when it first came out accidentally, because I went to Walmart and they put all the full screen editions up at the front. And I was so mad at myself because when I started the movie, it said Lord of the Re, because it cut off the L and the GS
to make it 4x3
on the ends and just scooched it in. And it was like Fellowship of, and that was it, because the ring, was over here, and they cut it out, and I was like, I'm going to have to buy this movie again. Now, luckily, Blu-ray came out, and I switched to that, but really hurt my feelings there. So seeing that this was in 4:3 as a way to preserve its original, the way it was filmed, I thought was wild. Explain to me why that's wild.
So Zack Snyder, for a long time, has been a fan of the IMAX format. So if you ever go to an IMAX movie, you'll notice that your chairs lean back a little farther than normal, and that's because you're looking up higher. So it's actually in a 4:3 aspect ratio. It's like giant chunks of film. So it's capturing actually a lot more information. Yeah. So what we're watching is like a dumbed down quality so that it will fit on our screen, but it is all of the information that Zack intended to be shown on an IMAX screen. So you'll have some things in the frame that are on the top right and some things in the frame that are on the bottom left. And if you were to crop it and make it fill out your whole screen, you would lose one of those two things. And there were a ton of shots I noticed in this film where, well, even this shot here that we're looking at, the hat is in the top left and this guy looking at it is in the bottom. So if you cropped it to fit on your widescreen TV, you would just see like barely the tip of his head. So that's essentially what it is and why it's important. So we're getting these very artistic types of shots and creative shots that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. It's just having black bars on the side of your screen. I think people are more accepting of this nowadays. We're used to having
definitely
portrait mode for stories and wide mode for YouTube and Square for Facebook. So I don't think too many people had an issue with it.
Yeah. I remember when I was working at Barnes & Noble and people would buy DVDs, they would get so mad if it was in widescreen when they had a full screen TV. And now that the aspect ratio of TVs isn't, I feel like people are a little bit more in tune now with there being some black boxes somewhere.
Yeah, there just are different aspect ratios. Yeah, they just exist. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's several shots like this where something is in one corner in the top left and something else is in the bottom, and you can't cut it off. They did for the Josstice League, but it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, I was expecting to be annoyed by it, but I pretty quickly ignored it and didn't think about it again. And there was like one point where I think we had paused because I had to use the restroom or something, and when I came back I was like, oh, 4:3, silly, and that was it.
Yeah, because if you even this shot, you would have to cut out all the stuff on the top and all the stuff on the bottom to get the shot of the mother. But like, it's just it's an artistic choice, and I'm not holding it against anybody.
Yep. Let's talk about this because of the way this movie's set up. And this is probably my chiefest complaint with this movie is that this movie made me scared of Superman. Like, he gets brought back, and then so he's amnesia Superman for, I don't know, 15 minutes. And then he sees Lois, and that calms him down. But then before that, we get right before Flash brings him back, and right before Cyborg kickstarts the machine to bring him back, Cyborg has this like little flash of the future and sees Superman holding what we all assume to be Lois's dead corpse and Darkseid coming up behind him. So there's all this foreshadowing of Superman turning bad, all of this foreshadowing of him not being able to deal with the loss of Lois, and the Batman versus Superman Flash scene of him saying Lois is the key. And so there's all this foreshadowing of Superman is going to straight up murder everybody due to his loss of humanity as symbolized through his loss of Lois. And that feels, one, just a little antithetical to who Superman is. I don't think his entire humanity is based off of Lois. I think it's based off of John, his father, and the Kents.
How he was
in some of the right, exactly. And then in some of the comic books, they explore the fact that him and Wonder Woman get together because they're like, we're immortal and everybody else is gonna fade away. So you and I should probably ride this out. So I don't know. I felt like I was waiting for the moment to happen. Every time Lois was on the screen from the point Superman came back on, I was like, and this is where she's going to get murdered.
Yeah, I don't think that extra reinforcement. I don't think that extra reinforcement of the idea with Cyborg's vision was necessary because we already had a little bit of it. That could have been cut out for sure.
Yeah, it's not like Superman is Hellboy, where it's been prophesied that he will bring about the apocalypse. This is just one potential outcome, and somehow everybody's tapped into it.
It should have been more of that in BVS so that we understood where Batman was coming from. And it kind of got explained, but I felt weird about it because it didn't explain whether it was the Flash explaining it to him or if he was having a vision or a dream. And if he is having a vision, then my wife's like, what, Batman's psychic now? So why couldn't
so is Cyborg?
And yeah, and if the Flash is going back in time to tell him, hey, Lois is the key, this might happen, why can't he just give the message? Why does it have to be half psychic and then half Flash? Why can't it just be Flash? Here's an iPad with all the information you need to know, or I wrote this down on a piece of paper. Here's a note,
right?
And drop it off and go back to the future. Like, why does it have to be this
Flash drive?
Yeah, the Flash.
Here's a Flash drive.
That would have made way more sense.
Is in the shape of a lightning bolt.
USB.
Here's a Flash drive. Wink. Trademark. Burger King's got Flash drives for sale.
Oh Lord. Anyway, I'm just saying this should have been heavier in BVS so that we had more Batman's motivation, and I think it should have been more delivered by Flash, who we now see does have time travel abilities. So that should have just been right there. He handed him the Flash, and then then it would have made way more sense And we wouldn't need there's no need to have Cyborg be psychic also. Let's just keep it contained. You know what I mean?
Deal with the here and now.
Yeah, I don't mind having a psychic, but when these characters never in any version of any comic have psychic abilities, it's a little weird. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's just...
Everybody's having visions.
Yeah. Can we talk about this real quick? This Superman, the call to the mother boxes, this gratuitous we lost Superman scene. Like,
the wave. The wave that circles, the waves that circle the world over and over again.
Yeah, except for that zoomed out shot, I still appreciated the message here because it's showing you, hey,
oh yeah,
the god's dead, and now the mother boxes can send for Darkseid. So we have a little motivation for Steppenwolf. It's logically made sense. Like, why wasn't this in the original? I don't understand. Why do we get a cell phone of Superman with a bad mustache removed instead of this? Come on.
Because this movie has Superman being the scary, red-eyed murder Superman, just like he's one bad day away. And the executives were like, we can't give that version of Superman to the world. We need uplifting Boy Scout Superman. And
well, I think ultimately you still had
scene at the beginning to be like, hey, I'm saving cats.
Yeah, but you ultimately had Boy Scout Superman at the end. It's okay to be a little worried that he might go dark. You know what I mean? But like, he still was Superman.
I'd say a little bit more than a little worried.
Yeah, the extra Cyborg scene Vision should have been cut out, and because it was too much reinforcement of that idea.
And like ending the movie on the epilogue of in the nightmare scenario with Superman showing up and being ready to murder. That's the last image of Superman we see in the movie.
Yeah, a little weird. I think but that epilogue we know is new, and I feel like it is the thing that least fit into this film. Like, it literally just tacked on, like, that nightmare scene at the very end. It felt very tacked on to me. And we're just going to put this here so that maybe we can do some more stuff later. Like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, I read an article that said Zack Snyder really thought of this as movie 3 of 5. So the next movie would explore Darkseid coming to Earth to get the anti-life equation, and then Lois getting murdered. And then movie 5 would be the nightmare scenario and trying to get Flash back in time to reset back to the good times. So I get it. I get the reason for the epilogue. And I like the epilogue in the sense of putting characters that we wouldn't normally see together being together, getting Mira, and she's obviously upset about Aquaman being dead. We get Deathstroke hanging out in the back with Batman, so obviously they don't have beef anymore. You know, we've got Cyborg, we've got Flash as he looked in Batman versus Superman in that flashback scene, and then obviously Joker and Batman having a fun conversation. And if that's the only thing we get of Ben Affleck Batman and Jared Leto Joker, then I guess I'm okay with it. But I think that scene proves that they had something there that they could have explored, which is too bad. And I hope they find an avenue to explore that again.
Yeah, I hope it continues. There's just a couple of things. Yeah, you're right. This movie could have been a solid 330, 315 and been a great movie. It's a great attention-grabbing movie. There's a couple of things that are slightly gratuitous, but I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed every single moment of it, except for maybe the singing to Aquaman was like a minute too long, but the rest of it was great, you know?
Right, yeah. It was a fun idea. It's just there's so many things that, like, if you're trying to make a 2-hour movie, you have way too much content and you have to go back to square one and rewrite that movie. If you're trying to make a 2-hour movie out of what you have here, you have to go back to the very beginning and start all over. If you're going to make a 3-hour movie, 3 hour and 15, you can do that. You just have to tighten up all of these little scenes. Just need to be just like a little tighter. You don't get to linger nearly as much. The Wonder Woman fight scene in the bank, just tighten it up a little bit. This, tighten it up a little bit. You do that, and I think you've got a rock solid 3 hour and 15 movie. 3:30.
With all of the hoopla about the Snyder Cut, if the movie would have only been 3 hours, people would freak out. They'd be like, who cares? It's not a big enough like, even with it being 4 hours, I felt
Definitely.
like it wasn't even that big of a difference. It was the same story, except you understood what it was.
The story beats follow.
Yeah.
The story beats make sense, and they follow the exact same trajectory, only subbing in a little bit of Darkseid, and that's it. So yeah, to make this a 4-hour ordeal, to make it worth all the buildup, you have to use every piece of footage you shot.
Yeah, and
100%, because you have HBO Max. It doesn't matter. Runtime doesn't matter. You've broken it into sections so that people can pause and come back and watch the rest of it tomorrow.
Which I loved, by the way, because then I knew when I could pause it. Part 2. Okay, pause. I'm going to go to the bathroom now. Get a cup of tea or heat something up, whatever. You knew exactly when to pause the thing. And I love that. I really appreciated that. It beats having to start another video as well. Like, I'm glad they didn't do episodes and I had to start another episode every time it goes to another part. I thought it was smooth. I really appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think now that Disney Plus has shown that you can have a WandaVision, a Mandalorian, a Falcon and Winter Soldier type show, then they can follow that model and do something interesting with these characters in the HBO Max world. I firmly believe it doesn't have to be theatrical release, and it doesn't have to be Zack Snyder either. If he's, I only want to do movies, then just let him do movies. But you could continue this.
Yeah, this is set up, I think, perfectly. Darkseid is set up perfectly for me. I wasn't too upset that he wasn't actually, I was hoping he would come into Earth and come into the world. But at the same time,
I thought he was going to be the final act villain.
Yeah, at the same time, it set it up for him to be an even bigger villain. If they do continue, if they have the bad guy to work with. I did feel like this CG here on him was a little subpar. Like, it was the worst of all the CG was Darkseid and his minions. And maybe it's just because it's older, but they did update Steppenwolf and his little metal things.
Steppenwolf looked great.
Yeah, they're like moving and stuff. Like, man, that was creepy. Awesome. Like when he got shot with all those arrows.
Yeah, and he shook him off.
Never seen anything like that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
This whole scene was embellished. It wasn't just Steppenwolf like wrecking everybody. It was they fought back and damaged him, like really slowed him down and stuff. And you got the feeling that they took him down for a second anyway until he pops back up.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the Amazons are strong. They're strong. They're not like us. I thought it was good that they showed that strength in this version of it.
Yeah. No, he was way more formidable in this version than in the first one. In the first one, he felt old to me. He felt like an old man who was like part of some like mother box cult, like the last true believer for the unity. But in this movie, it's like he's in this abusive relationship with Darkseid, and he's fallen out of favor and owes him 50,000 worlds. And then he can't even get Darkseid on the phone.
Yeah.
Can't even get him on the phone. He's got to talk to Desaad. He's got to talk to the new girlfriend who's like, Darkseid's not home right now. Sorry. Call back later.
He's out of the office.
Yeah.
But 50,000 worlds, that's a lot of worlds. I didn't even know there were.
That's so many. So many.
I didn't know there were 50,000 worlds. And so if you owe 50,000 worlds, how many worlds did you spend before you owed 50,000 worlds?
How big of a screw up did you screw up to owe 50,000 worlds? Like,
I don't blame him for not.
Come on.
I can't blame him for not wanting to talk to you.
Yeah, whatever you did, it wasn't something simple.
Yeah.
You screwed up big time.
You better get this anti-life or whatever, or the mother boxes.
Get that anti-life equation.
Oh, speaking of mother boxes, I really appreciated this scene too. They added the extra Wonder Woman footage so she knew what was up with all this stuff because she wasn't around back then.
Yeah, and, when she gets the flaming arrow from
Mom
Themyscira. Yep. Yeah. So then she goes down into the basement of the Pantheon or something. I don't know. Somewhere Greek.
Some random monument, something. But yeah,
random monuments. And they got this whole battle of Darkseid. It was cool though, man. We got to see kill Green Lantern.
Yeah, we saw right, and Ares.
right? We saw the old gods.
I wonder what happened to
saw
them. Did they ever
Ares
explain?
with a bald head.
Well, we know
with David
Ares.
Th-
Yeah, we know he got taken out. What happened to Zeus?
Yep. I don't know.
This was added. The scene with the Aquaman gave him a little bit of motivation for going
we got
into
a little
town because he's not trying to be Atlantean. He's just doing his own thing. So this gave him a reason to go back to Atlantis and find out it's under attack. Everything had a purpose for me. You know?
And we also got to find out that's his mom's
trident.
It's not a trident.
Well, they called it a trident, but it's a 5-dent.
Yes, it's a.
Here's your mother's trident that has 5. It's a pendant.
The trident plus 2, the pendant.
How does this even happen? How do they let that, like, how does somebody go, hey, how does it get by? Whoever's putting together these scenes in post, like, or whoever's the props guy. All right, your job is to make a trident. Okay, well, I'm going to put 5 spears on it. No, it's a trident. Tri means 3, by the way.
Yeah.
How did they let that get by?
Actually, here's probably how the conversation went. Look, if somebody's analyzing how many tips are on the trident, then we've got a bigger problem. But this was also 5 years ago, and podcasts weren't really a thing so much.
If you count it as
2 guys would be analyzing.
It's 3 on each side if you count the middle as a side. Why not?
Yeah.
We can do some common core math here and maybe figure out how it's a trident.
It's my double trident.
Oh my God.
Trident.
From multiple perspectives, it's a trident. Okay. Yeah.
From my perspective, it is a trident.
Truth be damned. The truth is relative.
Excuse me?
Excuse me. King Arthur, this is your mother's trident. What makes this trident unique is it's not a trident at all. It's special because it's a pendant.
Look, could this have just been an email? Can you just... I don't need to hear the whole story. Do we have to have a whole meeting about the pendant? Send me an email. Could you have texted this to me?
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that, Ben.
Too long, didn't read.
All right. Yeah.
You know, okay, if you had to rank the DCEU movies, where do you put Snyder versus Justice League?
I actually rather enjoyed this film, although it didn't give me that like extra excitement that you have when you watch a new film, because it's the same film in a way.
It was the same story beats.
It was the same film, but corrected.
Out.
Yeah, it was corrected.
Yeah.
And it was good.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that like I'm watching a new movie vibe.
Skeleton of a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't get that like I'm watching a new movie vibe. I got the I'm watching a better version of the same movie vibe. So it's really hard to judge this, because I wish I could forget Josstice League and then just watch this fresh, and I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I would have a better way to judge this. But because I'm seeing it like just completely fix what was wrong with the other one, I'm inclined to give it a higher score. Like, this is a 4 out of 5 for me. It's good. It's above average. It's right now I enjoyed it more than BVS. I say that. I don't know. It's about the same. It's about the same as BVS. The Ultimate Edition of BVS, better than BVS. Right. Yeah. I don't think you can put regular it's like, why can't they get the movies right the first time? I don't understand. DC has a lot of
because I assume it's because these DC executives are like, you need to get this movie down to 2.5 hours or something. They're like, we can't put, and I think Zack Snyder just films too much stuff, or doesn't write it tight enough in the first place.
Yeah. The part of the problem is we didn't have Aquaman before this movie. If we would have had Aquaman first, you wouldn't have to have all that setup. It's arguable you could have taken out some of it, but still you had to have something to set up Aquaman. We didn't have a Flash movie yet. You didn't need all 3 of them. Maybe you could have done at least 2 before you go to Justice League. We know it works in the Marvel universe.
Right.
So to make a Justice League movie, my argument is you have to make a 4-hour movie. To make a Batman versus Superman movie, you have to make a long movie so that you understand why Batman doesn't like Superman so much. And I still feel like they dropped the ball a little bit. If he would have got the flash drive from the Flash, then 100%, we all would have been on board. Like, you got to kill him. We got evil Superman.
Well, one thing we need to figure out before we move any farther is if Darkseid's mom's name is Martha, because that could change everything. I'm glad I said that as you were taking a drink.
Good timing on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Darkseid's mom's name is Martha. we got a whole other movie, bro.
Yeah, then we're all friends. But
How funny would it be? How funny would it be if they actually made that movie, and then as soon as Darkseid drops onto Earth, if Batman's just like, hey, before we get started, any chance your mom's name is Martha? And he's like, what? All right, looks like we're fighting.
Honestly, the Martha line actually made, in the extended edition, it makes more sense. Like that line.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Because it gets fleshed out, the whole Martha thing in the background, like all that stuff gets fleshed out in the Ultimate Cut or whatever it is. Yeah. So it makes more sense.
The fact that nobody ever put that together is really, it's really sad.
But it's not that Batman didn't know that Superman was Clark Kent, I don't think. So he didn't know his mom's name was Martha.
True. No, I'm just saying, like,
triggering.
I'm saying, like,
in society,
not in the. No, I'm saying like in our world, not in the world of the movie.
In this realm of complaining about movies, nobody noticed that their names were the same.
No, I'm just saying those aren't two dots that I ever connected. And I just find it interesting that DC's two of their biggest characters have moms with the same first name. So the fact that is never just like randomly brought up in the same way that like alliterative names are so prevalent in comic books. Clark Kent.
Here's what I think happened. I think the DC
Lois
writer,
Lane.
whoever wrote these stories, is probably the same person at the beginning. And his mom's name probably was Martha. Mm-hmm. But Martha Kent always went by Ma Kent, right? Instead of Martha.
True.
So that's why nobody connected the dots, I think.
And it's not like Martha Wayne is around a whole lot to be reminded of what her name is.
I think Zack Snyder actually set that moment up perfectly in the Ultimate Edition. I thought it made a lot of sense. I think it was set up enough. Batman obviously has emotional issues. It made sense for him to get triggered there.
Definitely.
For me, it was convincing. The first time I watched it, no, not so much. The Ultimate Edition, it all kind of sank in enough for it to work for me.
Yeah, especially with that scene, like, I just wanted Superman from the get-go to just be like, hold on, we need to talk. We need to talk this out.
Yeah, no, my wife was like that too. She's like, why doesn't he just tell him that it's Lex? Like, what is it? Because then you wouldn't have this cool fight scene.
Like, true, we wouldn't have this like completely manufactured fight scene.
How else are you going to get that movie? I thought it was all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It worked for me. Like, I just watched it. It worked for me. The first time, no. This time, yes. So just DC in the future, get your movies right before you release them.
Man, DC, here's the deal. The story of all the movies you want to make.
Yeah, please.
Plan it out.
Also, Star Wars.
And then just execute.
Lucasfilm, if you're listening, do the same thing, please.
Oh, gosh. Lucasfilm, if you're listening, Lucasfilm, bruh, just storyboard out the whole thing and then make your trilogy. Come on.
How is there not a beginning, middle, and an end? How is there not a result that you wanted to get to by episode 9? Why wasn't there just, okay, we're going to either go here, maybe we'll go here or here, and have it in mind? How do you start a franchise with no idea where you're going? Like, more news came out recently. I don't even know that. More news came out recently where they admit they had no idea what they were doing.
Look, knock the prequels all you want, but George knew what he was doing. Movies 1, 2, and 3 for the most part.
He at least had an outline.
My argument, Now my argument is that they should have started with Attack of the Clones.
Yeah,
and then have an entire movie of him being bad. Absolutely,
for sure. Yeah,
but look, whatever. But I watched those Twilight movies a week and a half ago, and it's they moved into post-production on one movie, and the next movie was starting to film almost immediately. They were like, look, we're on the clock. These kids are getting older.
Well, to be fair, they had source material to draw from.
True. They had, but that's what I'm saying. Like, y'all should figure out what your source material is, create that, and then build your scripts off of that.
Pick a comic book. If you're
just do an outline.
If you're Lucasfilm, pick a couple novels. Yeah, do an outline. Just do some bullet points. Yeah. Get 10 of them. Do an outline. Just start. To start.
Yeah.
Put something out there so you have an idea. It can change.
Just do it.
It's okay if it changes midway, but at least you know the direction you're going. I heard feedback that the reason that we know that Lucasfilm had no idea what they were doing is because the guy that did the CG for the Star Destroyers coming out of the ground, first they were going to come out of hangars.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, no, it'll look cooler if they just come out of the ground like they're coming out of the grave. And he had to rescale the Star Destroyers to not even be accurate so that they come out of the ground so that you could see that many in one shot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wild.
It's a real tragedy what happened there. Have you heard the tragedy of
just
Darth Palpatine?
Yeah.
Man.
Have an outline, man.
Well, by the way, that could have been your story. Oh, wait, there was another Palpatine? So he had a son / his clone that just didn't do anything? He was like, just get married and have a daughter. Like, what?
Oh, wait, hold up. That was a clone?
Yeah, his son is a clone.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought he got down with some lady.
So you had the potential, this entire sequel trilogy, you had the potential to be fighting the clone of the Emperor who was younger. Like, it was already, in retrospect, it was already in the story. And they could have had that. That would have been epic. To see the young Emperor, like, freaking getting info from his dad, you know?
They could have had a lot of things.
I'm just saying.
They could have had a lot of things.
It seems like your point of view on this has changed a little bit, because you used to be, like, very pro 789, it seemed like. It seemed like you're changing.
I'm still, like, of the sequel trilogy, I'm still very much in the corner of The Last Jedi, because I felt like Force Awakens was a bit of a retread, but they got the tone and that was nice. But much in the same way that, like, we all speculated with WandaVision, there was all this speculation on who is Snoke and who are Rey's parents and is she Obi-Wan's daughter, and all this kind of crazy stuff. So Rian Johnson just being like, you know, taking a sharp left turn, I thought was a brilliant move and giving us something that we didn't expect to see. Now, ultimately, was that what was best for the entire trilogy? Probably not. But they also had Colin Trevorrow going to make that third movie, and then they were like, creative differences, you got to go.
All right, we should get back to this.
Definitely.
I don't know. What do we got here? Let's just get random Flash scenes.
Man, the best Flash scene for me was when the rocks were falling and they're under the harbor, the Gotham harbor, and you see it from everybody else's perspective of just this, like, flash of lightning and all of the different, like, poses that the Flash is doing as he's, like, moving all this debris from falling on top of them. I thought that was a great scene. The visuals on that were spectacular, and the idea that Joss Whedon didn't keep that is really unfortunate. Like, how do you cut that from the movie in place of what I don't know how to do battle? Like, that line's not important. Yeah, the visuals on that were wonderful. The visuals on his first scene in the dog walking interview where he saves Iris West, those were great visuals. More Speed Force. Yeah. I'm excited for the Flash movie. I think that's going to be cool.
Yeah, I think they really elevated the Flash character. I think he was unlikable in the Josstice League. And then he's still a goofy kid or whatever, but he has a purpose and he's
competent.
Yeah, he knows how to run fast. Like, he knows how to do that. And he does it and shows it off.
Yep.
And saves quite a few people. He saves, like, everybody. The first time I saw the movie, I was like, what is this scene? Why am I watching this? It was just like a cluster F of CG nonsense. And I didn't get why it was in the movie at all. And it arguably could not be in the movie. But this was great to see them all team up.
I mean, honestly, I could jettison this entire set piece of under Gotham Harbor. I could jettison that whole thing. I don't think it's that important to the plot. All we've done is establish that Steppenwolf took some prisoners to find where the mother box was. And these guys come in, save all those prisoners. They have to work together. I guess that's the point of the scene, is that you start to see them working as a team.
Yeah, you get to solve. They work together, like literally together, right here.
Yeah,
I think it served a purpose, and it wasn't hard for me to watch. Did it bother you, like, watching it? You were like,
no, not at all. But if you take this whole set piece out, then you've cut 25 minutes from the movie.
That's true. Yeah, you can
get to bringing Superman back faster. You just get to Superman faster.
Yeah, you could have him come down and steal the mother box and then just be gone. It doesn't have to be this whole thing.
And maybe Warner Brothers was like, look, we've made this new bat crawler
to sell in the toy store.
We're going to try to sell some of these toys. So we need those scenes to try to sell that toy.
Speaking of added scenes that I thought were actually beneficial was that scene where he upgrades Batman's armor. So the scene where Wonder Woman shows up at the Batcave, and Alfred's working on Batman's armor with Kryptonian technology, which explains why he didn't get liquefied when Superman zapped him. So I appreciated that. It's like everything was set up, and then we had tons of setup and the payoff. Yeah, just over and over. And that's why this edit of the film worked for me. And I wasn't like, oh, this 4 hours is taking forever. There was more than one setup and payoff, and it just kept happening. And I didn't mind.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm not saying that it was a boring 4 hours, or that it was that the runtime was a negative. What I am saying is that for this movie to work the way it's constructed, it had to be 4 hours long. And that means that there are fundamental flaws in the film as it is, in its bones, in its structure. There are some flaws. Now, some of that is the fact that you don't have a Cyborg movie or a Flash movie or an Aquaman movie to lead into this. Some of it is that problem. I think the biggest sin of the Josstice League is how much of Cyborg's character got cut, because he really is the emotional heart of the movie. He is the center, the emotional center of the movie, I think. So cutting him out as much as and making him like a side piece is the biggest problem with the Josstice League versus this. But there was a better movie to be made that didn't need to be 4 hours long, and it starts with the writing.
I'm still arguing against, especially since we did get it in this format. It's not a movie; it's a long thing that's on HBO Max. This is the perfect vehicle for what it was.
But you can see why Warner Brothers 5 years ago was like, "Yo, we can't put this out. Like, we got to make some changes." Now they tried to course correct and they blew it. And at that point, this is your third movie with Zack Snyder in this universe. You should know what you have by that point. And there was also some issues with, they needed the movie to come out by a certain point in time because they all wanted to get their bonuses.
I remember that.
And they thought that Warner Brothers was going to get sold to somebody else. So they were like, we just need this movie to come out so we can get our bonuses before we get sold to a larger corporation, so that
that'll put
it's more than just
your project.
Absolutely. So there was no that's why they went with we'll just film with him having a mustache, with Superman with a mustache, and CGI it out later, because
just do it. Yeah, get it over with.
Just waited. Yeah, they would have missed their deadline and they wouldn't have gotten their $1 million bonuses and whatever.
And then we would have gotten a better movie, a better film. I think ultimately, if they would have taken the time, they would have realized they could have made more money with it by making 2 films. If you add back Green Lantern, you have so much more content. Then you have 2 films worth of
stuff. They were going to do a Green Lantern show. That was the plan, so that that took Green Lantern off the table.
You can still, why can't you still do a Green Lantern show? You're going to have a Flash show, an Aquaman show. These people and their logic is so flawed. It's because they could have made, think about it, they could have made literally twice as much money at part 1 and part 2. I would have gone to see part 1. I would have been a little upset that I didn't get much of Superman, but then I definitely would have went to see part 2 to see Superman in it. So yeah, and Green Lantern. Yeah.
I just think I don't know. I just feel like we could have just truncated a lot of that early stuff and gotten into Superman much earlier.
Like putting the team together could have been faster. Like just
putting the team together. I don't think you need to have putting the team together and then let's get Superman. I think you can do some of that concurrently and then have them meet up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the mechanism by which they got Superman back was to have Cyborg and the Flash.
They needed all of them except Aquaman, really.
Which they spent the most time on. So arguably they could have, 1, they were already working on Aquaman, so maybe they could have got that movie out faster. Or 2, just abbreviated the Aquaman scenes. Because you're right, they were a little bit longer than they had to be. I think the setup, the backstory for Aquaman. But other than that, I still don't think it would cut enough out of the film. So even if you abbreviate, even if you just had Aquaman show up with his trident, it still would be too long.
No, I mean, like, you need to see the mother box get taken from Atlantis, and you can have that scene with Mira. As much as I like the Flash interview scene for the dog walking job, I think it could be it's between that scene and the scene with his dad in prison. Like, you only get to keep one of those two. I would probably jettison the scene with his dad in prison and just do the dog walking scene, especially if DC is saying, hey, have a more upbeat movie. Then I think you go with that one.
Prison scene didn't seem like it needed to even be there.
Yeah, it's like you see his motivation for why he's doing any of the things that he's doing, but that could also just be explained in other ways. You need the him and Batman scene of him being recruited by Batman. You can throw a line or two about his dad in there.
And here's the thing: is his dad is an integral part of the Flash story. That is an important part of the Flash story, and what happened to his mother and all that. So you're getting like the character development from having that scene. In the interest of saving time, yeah, you could have cut it out, but it seems fairly important to his character, though.
Yeah, I guess
I think you're saying
my thing is I don't.
It sounds to me like you're saying he should have written an entirely different movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Except that you still
I think this movie needs it to be 4 hours long to work.
You still have the conundrum of having too many characters and not enough setup.
True.
You cut more characters. I think if you cut Cyborg out, but then you have to have another mechanism for the mother box thing, you know.
And he's the emotional center of the movie. But if you're rewriting it, then I guess that doesn't have to be the case.
Cyborg was very likable. Yeah. In this version of it, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Yeah. But you're right. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I'm glad we got this version. That's all I'm saying.
I know. I'm like, I still like this. Like, I would put this movie right next to Batman vs. Superman if I'm ranking all of the DC movies. And I'm saying it's probably firmly in the middle, high middle, somewhere around there. Whereas Josstice League is dead last.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think Wonder Woman is first. I think Man of Steel is probably after that for me. Honestly, the new Harley Quinn movie might be the third one for me. That might be my third favorite. God, that was fun.
I mean, it was just a fun movie, but there wasn't any substance.
Yeah, it doesn't have any like grand mythology or anything like that. And I thought it was refreshing. Yeah, it was just I thought it was a fun, colorful movie, self-contained.
For sure, like just its own side thing. Yeah. I don't know that I like the way like she was always referring back to Mr. J and like it's just have him in the freaking movie. Like they could have really.
Right.
Yeah. There were so many references to the Joker that it bothered me. Like it took me out. I was like, why don't they just have him in the freaking show? Like how many times are you going to mention Mr. J or whatever? Come on. Just put him in there.
The way that Suicide Squad dealt with the Joker was odd. I didn't like it.
Okay, Suicide Squad. I feel like there was another movie in there somewhere that got chopped to bits. Yeah, that was
that's another one that we need like a full re-edit director's cut of.
For sure. Yeah.
Because the movie that we got and the vision that the director had were two totally different things.
Yeah. Warner Brothers is on fire with somehow dismantling their own films.
Yeah, so they're really good at self-sabotage.
Here's the thing that's promising is we have HBO Max now. And if they decide to back this Snyderverse, he can do whatever he wants. We can stream it as we want. It can be 6 hours. It can be 2 hours. It can be 30 minutes and we'll watch it. It's fine. You know, just have a story and do it. Yeah. I think it's going to be great. But like having...
Yeah. It makes me excited for Flashpoint, having Ben Affleck Batman in there, but then also having Michael Keaton Batman in there. I think that'll be cool. Playing around with some of that time travel stuff, multiverse stuff for it. We'll see where that goes.
My favorite film is... I really appreciated Wonder Woman, but I don't think it was my favorite. I think after rewatching Man of Steel, I think that's my favorite. And then... everything else is there's like a second tier of BVS, Justice League, Wonder Woman, maybe a little above that. I guess that would be the second tier. And then everything else is just down on the bottom. Like the Birds of Prey, what's the other one we just said? Suicide Squad. Shazam. Like,
Aquaman.
Aquaman was all right.
I think I would put Aquaman. I think I'm going Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Aquaman, Justice League, Batman versus Superman. Maybe those are flipped. I don't know.
Yeah, Aquaman looked cool. I don't know how. I don't know. I can't even remember anything from it, so it must not have been that amazing.
Yeah, I enjoyed the story. The story made sense. The visuals were amazing. I thought the music was really good too. I feel like they fit a lot in to that movie. Aquaman achieved something, like it achieved in tone what I think they were trying to go for, like having a lighter tone but still being a serious movie. I feel like Aquaman did the best at riding that line.
Yeah, tone wise, yeah, it wasn't too dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more hope. I think
and it was epic.
I think this coming out now is a little bit depressing. It's like you said, it's a darker side of the DC universe. And so the timing on this, not the greatest. Like, I'm glad we have it, but it's still a little heavy. And,
right.
You know, being in these post whatever times we're in, like, we need just a little more hope, I think. And so hopefully they'll take that into consideration moving forward. If they do the Nightmare universe, that they at least have like a parallel reality where Superman is doing awesome, good things and something like that, so that we're not just completely depressed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Agreed.
And on that note, hey, let us know what you think. If there should be comments somewhere. There's comments on the YouTube.
Yeah, leave us a comment.
Hit the like button.
Rate and review us if you're listening on the podcast.
And make sure you're following us. We got a lot of followers that like one time and then bounce out. Make sure you hit the follow button. Come back and listen.
Subscribe.
And subscribe. Whatever it is now. They keep
Get
changing
that automatic
things.
download.
And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.